Guys, you get it? We say we might get the peace, and Israel goes literally ballistic. They go, oh yeah, we're gonna do a bombing campaign like you haven't seen. We're gonna hit their capital in Beirut. We're gonna hit 135 targets to make sure that the Lebanese are super pissed and that they don't wanna go to peace either, that Iran is pissed, that they don't wanna go to peace. We're gonna destroy peace at all costs, says Israel as usual. Gee, I wonder who the warmongers are. The ones who started the war? No, it couldn't be them. The ones who want to continue the war, and the minute we're close to peace, they come and destroy peace? Right, of course it's Israel. All right, guys, we have new news on whether we have peace. 60-day memorandum of understanding, we were told this morning, is on the precipice. It's nearly done. In fact, I want to give you quotes right away that show you that it might be done, and then you're gonna see whether that's really true. All right, so Axios reports, as usual, US and Iranian negotiators have reached an agreement on a 60-day memorandum of understanding to extend the ceasefire and launch negotiations on Iran's nuclear program. Oh my God, that sounds like amazing news. In the beginning, we were wondering if Axios was just doing this to, help Israel in some way, etc. And maybe that's still the case. These stories about, oh my God, we were almost at peace, right? But now people are wondering if it's just market manipulation and that's all. Because, hold on, let me prove my case. Right after they said that, they did clarify, quote, but President Trump has yet to give us final approval. So, okay, we don't have a deal, at least from the American side. Let's look at the Iranian side. Iran has also not confirmed its acceptance. Why are we talking about this then? Okay, now to be fair, there are other people reporting it, and there's Arab countries who are saying, hey, this is interesting. The Iranians have shown some interest in going forward, but it's definitely not finalized on either side. But let's dive into the details, because what you're gonna see here is how these deals fall apart, and then you'll be able to judge too whether this was even real or just totally fabricated for the reasons that we discussed. Okay, so they continue at Axios. The memorandum of understanding will include an Iranian commitment not to pursue a nuclear weapon, the officials said. Will also state that the first issues to be negotiated during the 60-day window will be how to dispose of Iran's highly enriched uranium and how to address Iranian enrichment. Well, that's great, because that's the thing that we wanted. The nuclear enrichment, get it out of the country, they can't make weapons. Plus the Strait of Hormuz. Well, so let's check in on that. The MOU would also state that the war between Israel and Hezbollah in Lebanon would end. An issue on which Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu have at least one tense discussion. So we'll come back to the Strait, because in the deal, the Strait of Hormuz would open back up. But on the issue of Lebanon, that's a giant sticking point. So this memorandum of understanding says Israel is not allowed to keep attacking Lebanon. And Israel doesn't want that. So let's see how that turned out, because there's facts on the ground I got to tell you about that might influence that. A US official apparently told Barak Ravid at Axios, the president relayed to the mediators that he wants a couple of days to think about it. Yeah, so the issue of Lebanon comes up and he needs a couple of days to think about it. In other words, call Netanyahu and go, are you sure you're gonna release the tape? Please don't release it. We don't know, but if you think that's not a possibility, you're obviously not following the news. Okay, the source said, now this is interesting, this is The Guardian, right? Now we switched over to a real publication. The source said Tehran had not informed the Pakistani mediator that the text was complete and would notify both the mediator and the public once finalized, adding that Western media reports claiming the agreement had already been finalized were false. So that is Iran telling real reporters, no, we don't have a deal. That information is just false. Okay, interesting. Then they asked Arab officials, The Guardian did, hey, Trump is saying that you guys are gonna sign the Abraham Accords. Again, if you don't know, the Abraham Accords normalize relations with Israel for these different countries. UAE has already signed it, for example. And it sets up trading relationship. Well, what's the downside on that? That sounds like a lovely piece, especially if you listen to American media. They have never portrayed it as anything but a wonderful peace deal and a huge step forward. No, those countries had been holding off for the last 60 years because in order to normalize relations with Israel, they want Israel to free the Palestinians and end the occupation. And the Abraham Accord says, no, betray the Palestinians Don't end the occupation. Who cares? Let Israel do whatever it wants to the Palestinians. So the Abraham Accords is a knife that they stick in the back of the Palestinians. That is why it's deeply unpopular in the Middle East. Isn't it weird that at a bare minimum, the American media didn't tell you how unpopular the Abraham Accords are and that the whole point is to betray the Palestinians? Even if you say, hey, well, you know what? Maybe the whole point isn't just to betray the Palestinians, but certainly it does. There's no question that that's an integral part of it. Isn't it weird that they never told you that? Now you could look it up, that the whole point is to exclude the Palestinians from that deal. Okay, so they asked Arab countries, so we here in America that you guys are all gonna betray them and that you're gonna sign this deal with the Israelis. So the Guardian got an actual quote from an Arab official. Quote, someone is misunderstanding this situation in a big way. We should be paid back, the Arab countries, not paying the price. And he considers that person, and a lot of the governments consider signing the Abraham Accords as paying a price. So you want us to help Israel? Wait, there is money potentially being exchanged. We're gonna get to that in a second, and wait till you see who pays it. Now we go to the New York Times. And in a shocking development, New York Times is reporting fairly honestly what's going on. Okay, attaboy. Hey, we always give credit where credit is due. Anyways, they write here, for the Americans, key to any deal would be that Iran disavows its nuclear program, an intention for acquiring a nuclear weapon, a promise Iranian leaders have made many times over the years, and agreed to dispose of its highly enriched uranium, two of the officials said. The Strait of Hormuz would reopen immediately, one of the officials said, but the US military blockade there would stay in place. So apparently Trump is calling for unity after another violent incident. And of course, depending on where you get your news, that story gets framed in completely different ways. On the right, the angle is that Trump is a uniquely powerful figure who keeps getting targeted because he's so effective. On the left, the focus is on something much more uncomfortable for them to deal with. Trump's long relationship with violent rhetoric and the political climate that he's helped to create. Now you just saw how easy it is to look at one story and immediately compare two completely different narratives. And that is exactly why I recommend Ground News. It's a website and app that pulls together reporting from across the political spectrum so you can compare headlines side by side. See the bias distribution of the coverage, check the factuality ratings of the sources, and even see who owns the outlets behind the reporting. Because once you start looking at coverage that way, it becomes a lot easier to see when the media isn't informing you, it's managing your perception. Ground News also has a blind spot feed, which highlights stories that one side of the political spectrum is barely covering at all, so you're not trapped inside the version of events your media bubble wants you to accept. Go to ground.news/TYT or scan the QR code and get 40% off the Ground News Vantage plan. It's a great deal. So, and then eventually we would take the blockade out piece by piece as Iran removed the mines and reopened the Strait of Hormuz. So the two things we wanted, Strait of Hormuz, yes. No nuclear weapons program, yes. We're done, there's no reason not to sign this. That was our only stated interest, American interest. So why are we still there? Why don't we sign the deal? Everybody knows why, it's Israel, which I'm gonna get to in a second. But look at the New York Times saying, yeah, Iran has offered to never make a nuclear bomb over and over again. An actual reporting breaking out at the New York Times. That is actually accurate and correct. So this whole idea of Iran's gonna make a nuke, giant lie. It was never true. They had a fatwa against it. They never even had a missile to deliver it. They never got to 90% enrichment. All of this has been a giant lie for the last 30 years, pushed by Benjamin Netanyahu and the entire Israeli government. Yes, for all of that time. The Israeli government has been lying to us decade after decade after decade. So now, since Israel wanted this war and they started this war, obviously they're gonna pay for it, right? Now everybody knows that's not the case. Israel never pays its bills, never does what it promises, and it makes either us or someone else pay for it. So who's gonna pay for it this time? New York Times says Trump and his team have quietly lobbied the Gulf Arab states to underwrite Iran's post-war reconstruction contingent on the Iranians agreeing to acceptable terms. The Gulf countries have discussed a $300 billion investment fund to that end. Why are the Gulf countries paying? Because they had American bases and Israel wanted to start this war. Iran struck back logically at American bases. I hate it But that's what happens when you start a war. If you didn't expect that, you're a moron. Oh, that's right, that's Trump and his entire team. Oh, Netanyahu told me they wouldn't attack our bases. It never occurred to you that the biggest liar in the world might lie to you? Well, if that's really true and Trump and his entire team never once considered that Netanyahu would lie to them, well, then they're the most incompetent idiots the world has ever seen. So, but to be fair to them, again, New York Times reported, yeah, Netanyahu came in, the head of Mossad came in on a telezoom before the war started and browbeat Trump into doing the war and say, oh, they won't attack you at all. They're so weak, you're gonna destroy them. You're a big daddy, you're gonna be the greatest military general in history. And Trump was like, okay. And then even his own corrupt advisors later the next day were like, well, some of that is not really true. We're not going to easily get regime change. I mean, that's at least what they leaked to the New York Times. So it doesn't really matter because at the end of the day, we did exactly as Israel ordered us to do. And now the Gulf states, because they were idiots and made deals with Israel, now both got attacked and might have to pay $300 billion to Iran, who they're not at all happy with and they're not allies with. So well played, Gulf countries. Way to be utter suckers and fools for Israel. You thought making a deal with Israel was gonna help you? I don't know that it gets dumber than that. Okay, so now let's go to what Israel's doing. Are they gonna help the peace process, make sure things settle down, temperatures cool down, and America, their top special ally, a country they do so much for, is able to get out of this disastrous war that's totally pulverizing our economy? It's funny, right? Israel help us? No, as you all know, they're gonna do the exact opposite. But again, honest reporting, interestingly, fascinatingly, has broken out of the New York Times. So they explain Israel widened its offensive in Lebanon on Thursday, striking Beirut for the first time in almost a month and pushing deeper into the country's south as its escalating conflict with Hezbollah threatens negotiations to end the US-Israeli war in Iran. So in other words, yeah, Israel knows that it's threatening the peace negotiations because it wants to. It doesn't want peace. It always says like, oh, self-defense, all I want is peace. And American media is like, all they want is peace. Jake Tapper, all they want is peace. They're those innocent victims of those barbaric terrorist Muslims who you should all hate. By the way, I'm objective. You're a joke. But to be fair to Jake, almost every cable news anchor, it seems like they're working for Israel. They only do Israeli propaganda. They're all jokes. They're news actors. They're not news anchors. But here, when we see actual reporting, it's not like we're biased. We say, I've been super harsh on the New York Times, but thank you for saying yes, Israel is widening the war, which is hurting our efforts to get to peace. And that's not an accident. That's obviously because Israel doesn't want peace, it wants war, to take more land. Not complicated. Later in the show, I'm gonna show you how Netanyahu is saying, we took over 60% of Gaza, and we're gonna take 70%, and maybe get up to 100%. By the way, cable news, weird he said that, but no one's reported it. That is so weird that they hid an incredibly important fact about the war and about peace to help Israel. That's so weird, except now you all know it's not at all weird. That's all cable news does. But New York Times getting better, so they explain. Israel said on Thursday that it also struck more than 135 targets belonging to Hezbollah, they claim belonging to Hezbollah, over the previous 24 hours in southern and eastern Lebanon, including rocket launch sites and training camps. Guys, you get it? We say we might get the peace, and Israel goes literally ballistic. They go, oh yeah, we're gonna do a bombing campaign like you haven't seen. We're gonna hit their capital in Beirut. We're gonna hit 135 targets to make sure that the Lebanese are super pissed and that they don't wanna go to peace either, that Iran is pissed, that they don't wanna go to peace. We're gonna destroy peace at all costs, says Israel as usual. Gee, I wonder who the warmongers are. The ones who started the war? No, it couldn't be them. The ones who want to continue the war, and the minute we're close to peace, they come and destroy peace? Right, of course it's Israel. Anyone with eyes and ears knows this is. Even the New York Times at this point is like, all right, no mas, it's Israel, right? Okay, but every cable news anchor is like, I don't know, which Muslim do I blame? It's all the Muslims' fault. You should hate Muslims. You should hate them, hate them, hate them. So when they murder 23,000 Palestinian children, remember, it's not nearly as important as an Israeli supporter being offended. If you've offended an Israeli supporter, we'll do national news, breaking news, one Israeli supporter slightly offended, 10,000 times more important than dead Palestinian children. In fact, over 23,000 dead children, we don't give a damn. Why don't you just put it in the graphic and make it easier for us, CNN, the cuck Netanyahu news network. Okay, so, but they said they were hitting Hezbollah, is that right? Let's go back to the New York Times. Many of the strikes took place in residential areas, and affected civilians. So no, it wasn't Hezbollah. They murdered a whole bunch of civilians as usual. One attack on a vehicle near the city of Sidon killed 6 people, including a mother and her 2 children, according to Lebanon's health ministry. Because murdering little children is Israel 101 these days. There's no dispute about it. I mean, how many tens of thousands of children do they have to murder before we say they murder children on purpose? There's no accident about this. Oh, we're about to get the peace? Bomb the kids, murder their kids so we don't get the peace. That is exactly what they're doing. But most of American news, now not exactly the New York Times. This is like my 8th time giving them credit. My God, if cable news turn around, do you have any idea how much credit I would give them? But they won't do it under penalty of law. So you're not gonna see how, if you turn on cable news now, they'll be like, oh, peace almost happening. Oh, it's our special ally helping along, right? The reality is, no, our special ally is trying to make sure that our economy is pulverized, that people in Iran are killed and that the regime is destroyed. They're trying to start a civil war inside Iran. That might kill hundreds of thousands of people, and Israel thinks, it's beautiful. More dead Muslims, and Iran will be decapitated, and they won't be able to help the Palestinians as we take more of Gaza and more of the West Bank, and all of the Middle East, and all the Arabs and the Muslims and the Christians will be defenseless. That is literally their plan, and they execute it every day, including today. Overwhelming evidence. Oh, we gotta murder kids to get to more war? Murder them! And that's what Israel did. So, and by the way, then the Israeli supporters here in America, they catch feelings. They're like, oh, I can't believe Cenk said that. Oh, like, I mean, they did murder the kids, but they murdered over 23,000, but they didn't intend it. Because we're the special moral people, and everyone else is evil and hates us. So it's okay if we murder kids. Don't you say it. If you say it, you're a bad person. No. When you do it, you're a bad person. Me doing a news program telling you about how they murder kids is a fact. Them saying, the kids are no big deal. She sent Israel more money to murder more kids. Oh, I can't believe you stated that accurately. No, you're the real problem for doing the news, Cenk. We have the rest of the news totally under control. Look at cable news pretending we're doing self-defense. But you won't follow the propaganda, Cenk. So you're the real problem, not Israel purposely destroying the American economy and getting us into a war we don't need to be in at all, and they won't let us out. They keep dragging us back in. There's a super easy answer, I'll get to it then, but 2 more quotes. Israel's military offensive in Lebanon threatens to complicate that fragile diplomacy. Now that's as much as the New York Times can say, yeah, Israel's the one destroying the peace efforts. So thank you for at least obliquely saying it. So, again, endless, look at me, I get so excited when there's one honest article. And so, by the way, this is now the 3rd one in like the last 2 weeks in the New York Times. So I'm making the mistake of opening up a little bit of hope that the New York Times might go back to doing news. So finally, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel said this week that the country's military was deepening its operation inside Lebanon. Of course, we tell them, hey, we're gonna go to peace. They go, no, we're gonna deepen the war. And remember, bitches, Netanyahu says to us, you don't work, your government doesn't work for you, your media doesn't work for you, they work for me. If I want more war, I'll get more war, is what Netanyahu is obviously saying to us, both through his words and his actions. So what's gonna happen? We're back to, I don't know, because American interests are so badly hurt if this war continues. So we can't continue the war. It'll be catastrophic economically. But we can't get out of the war because Israel has Trump and almost all of Washington by the testicles. And they keep squeezing and squeezing and say, tell everybody you don't work for me. Go back into the war for Israel. That's what you look like. That's what AIPAC looks like. That's what every disgusting warmonger in favor of Israel looks like in this country. More war for Israel, right? God damn it, man, that is not an ally. That's an enemy destroying peace. So how do you get to peace? Super easy. Iran has already offered it to you, and even the New York Times told you. We open up the Strait of Hormuz, they end their nuclear weapons program, they eventually ship out their highly enriched uranium that didn't get to 90%, but it got to 60%. It's probably buried under the facilities, but they've already promised to dig it up and give it to us. It's over, we don't have any more interest. Meanwhile, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, a theoretical Democrat, comes out over the weekend on CNN and it's like, well, we have to destroy every ballistic missile and every drone. We have to destroy every drone. What, you pretending to be against the war? And you want us to stay in the war until every drone of Iran is destroyed? She's a giant liar. She works for Israel. So does Cory Booker, so does Ted Cruz, so does Lindsey Graham. Both parties have been paid an enormous amount of money by the Israeli lobby. And the job of the American press is to lie to you, say, oh no, those millions of dollars they all got didn't affect them at all. Because they're super honest politicians. No, they're not. Debbie Wasserman Schultz is a giant liar who wants the war to continue so the country she loves, Israel, gets what it wants at the expense of America and her voters, because she doesn't give a damn about us, and neither does Ted Cruz or Lindsey Graham. So make the deal, cut out Israel, and if Israel wants to continue in Lebanon and Israel and Iran want to have a war, that's their business, not our business at all. Don't come crying to us if you start a war and then say, oh, boo-hoo, I lost a couple of citizens after I murdered thousands of theirs. After I started a war, it's not going that well. I need America to fight it for me. You owe me, America. You owe me dead soldiers. You owe me dead children. You owe me hundreds of billions of dollars. You owe me all the war in the world. And they literally say this, and our leaders go, yes, sir, of course, sir. And our media says, no. Beloved Israel, they're the victims. It's all lies. Israel has caused this war. It's the easiest thing in the world if our politicians and our media weren't all disgustingly corrupt to cut out the cancer. And you don't have to do anything physical, you don't have to do anything bad. All you do is say, hey, I'm for peace and I'm done with you. You guys are a bunch of warmongers who've robbed us blind through these years and driven us into one disastrous war after another. Good luck to you. I'm not doing anything against you. All I'm saying is you're not entitled to our money. You're not entitled to our military. You're a country with a population the size of Papua New Guinea. Please piss off forever. Be a grown-up country and deal with your own problems and your own wars and have your own budget and leave the good American people alone. That's the bare minimum. That's all. We're not asking for much. We're just asking you to stop robbing us and getting us killed in wars. Our media says that's too much to ask for. It isn't. It's the bare minimum we could ask for. And if Israel keeps pushing, one day they might find us as not an ally and not neutral, but something else entirely. So if I was Israel, I'd take neutral and run. But they won't. They'll push us deeper into war and they demand that we pay for it. And when we object, they will call the whole country anti-Semites. And they will say, you are the immoral ones for not agreeing to our wars and to our genocides. You are evil for opposing Israel. Yes, Jake, that's literally what you look like. You look like you're a monster accusing all Americans of being anti-Semites because they won't kneel to your beloved Israel. Again, I keep saying, Jake, almost like a avatar, but it's almost all of mainstream media and especially cable news. They are the worst of the worst and they obviously work for Israel.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.